Hello, my name is Jack Garvey, and this is my interview for APUS. Can you please state your name, age, and relationship to the interviewer?
My name is Elizabeth Garvey. I'm 47 years old, and I am Jack Garvey's mom.
Can you describe your background when it comes to schooling and home life as you grew up?
Sure. So I grew up in Middle Tennessee in a town called Gallatin, Tennessee. I went to college at Vanderbilt and majored in math.
Why did you choose to major in math?
Because when I went to college, I really liked math, so it was something that I enjoyed. And I also had a minor in business administration, which at the time I thought that would serve me well, given looking at what my future job opportunities would be.
What were some of those jobs that you held after college?
So after college, I actually went into consulting. I worked for the first 10 years after college at a firm called Anderson Consulting, which later became known, or today known as Accenture. Accenture really allowed me to understand what it means to enter the workforce and develop some really good consulting skills, which are relationship skills and communication skills. After Accenture, I went to Allstate Insurance Company, where I worked in a similar time frame, so around 10 years. So I used the skills that I learned as a consultant to do almost internal consulting at Allstate. And most recently now, I've been at a utility company called NiSource, where I've actually been focused on helping on the people side of change. So as we do big technology projects, how we ensure that people are ready for the changes that result from implementing new technologies.
What are some of the things that you like, and what are some of the things that you dislike about your current position?
Ooh, that's a great question. So what I really like is when I have the ability to develop and form teams. I really like the leadership part of my role. I also like the part of my role which allows me to be the most creative. So I like when I get dropped into situations where it really isn't clear what the answer or what the structure needs to be, that I'm allowed to put form around it and shape a problem into something that we can go and develop and execute.
What are some of the things that you dislike about your job?
Some of the things I dislike about my job. I think when my job becomes routine, where I'm doing the same thing over and over again. Sometimes I don't like when the job has a lot of the political dynamic, where people are trying to kind of outsmart one another versus really trying to be honest and align around what it is we want to do and how we all contribute to that. So it's tough sometimes in a corporate environment where there's more politics than people really trying to do the right thing for the right reasons.
Once it comes to people taking advantage of others in the workplace, going along with that, have you experienced any discrimination?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen discrimination, or have you ever taken part, meaning you were discriminated against?
Yeah, I would say as I have had elevated roles within all of my experiences, that sometimes you get into a situation where it's kind of the boys' club. And
can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so you think about kind of a locker room mentality, a football locker room, right, where it's all men, and men are kind of talking to one another, comfortable with what they're saying and how they're saying it, and sometimes it's not quite appropriate for mixed company. It's tough as a woman at times to be in that environment because you feel like you're out of place, and it's tough to relate and communicate with men when they choose to use those words and communicate that way.
So would you say that NiSource's current platform is sexist?
I wouldn't say that, but I would say that we have many of our most senior leaders are all men. And when you look at our C-suite, which is like our CEO and our chief operating officer and chief information officer. They're mostly male men and very male dominated. And how they talk and how they interact and kind of the expectations they have make it sometimes difficult as a woman who's balancing being a mom, contributing in the workforce, and trying to make all that work. So I think that my company right now, compared to the others that I have been part of, is really trying to make a strong effort to be inclusive and diverse. But there's still a fair amount of room to go until we get to that point where we are truly looking at all types of people, styles, not just gender and race, but inclusive styles and personalities, and how that mix works its way all the way up to most senior level positions.
Can you describe some of the things that your company is implementing to stop this said sexism this said sexism?
Yeah, so as I was saying, we're doing a lot of work around how we hire into the company. So as we think about candidates that we're interviewing for all positions, because we don't just hire entry-level positions, we hire mid-level and senior level and executive level positions. One of the things that we're making sure that we do is have a very diverse slate of candidates. So it's easy to have an unintentional bias towards people that look like you, act like you, have your style similar to you. So we're pushing very hard to make sure that we bring a diverse set of candidates through that pipe, and hire not just on who I'm most comfortable with, but really that brings those different characteristics. We're doing things to help train our existing leaders through leadership development and making sure that we as leaders understand things that we may do or not do to help grow and develop others, again, to really promote that inclusion and diversity. We have a number of groups within our company. We call them employee resource groups that allow people of similar, that have a similar either affiliation or affinity to come together and feel like they've got a place and a forum to provide input to the company. So there's a couple of different initiatives that we're doing to make sure that we look at a diverse workforce in addition to how we hire.
Do you think it's ever possible to remove this said bias from the selection process?
I actually, Jack, I would say no. In that we all have this tendency, and it's a true kind of unconscious bias.
You would say it's human nature, not something you can control? Not
easily control. You have to work really hard not to, because we always go towards things that we're comfortable with. And we move towards people who are like us, whether that means that they look like us, meaning I'm more comfortable with a white female, or somebody who has a similar background as I do, right? It's that you have to constantly fight that. So I think it'll always be a challenge in the workforce that we have to consciously work around.
I'd like to thank you very much for your time. And just one last question. Do you have any advice that you'd like to give to future generations looking to prosper in like a situation, in like a business situation similar to yours? Any advice?
Yeah, so I think that in particular, being a mom of two boys, right, and knowing some of the challenges that I have gone through with men in the workforce and what it means to be a woman trying to advance in the workforce, I hope that through the experience that my boys have seeing me and what I have done, that opens their eyes to how they look at and perceive women when they get into the workforce. So I hope that I can impart some lessons that way. I think the generations that are coming into the workforce, whether it be within the next 5 to 10 years, actually, look at work and view relationships probably very different than my generation did. I think need to continue to push for what they believe is the right thing to do, and continue to challenge, I guess, the status quo of what I've experienced through my short career.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.